Tell you what, it's 1 after. We'll go ahead and get started. A lot of the first 4 or 5 minutes is just me blabbing about an intro and some housekeeping and stuff. So we'll go ahead and get started. I know yesterday I came home and my wife had the air conditioner upstairs going and the heater downstairs going. So I thought about this would be a heck of an idea here. I do have the Wi-Fi enabled thermostats, in which if y'all don't know, let me introduce myself. My name's Jason Vandever, Energy Code Program Manager for SPEER. If y'all don't know, a lot of times you can call your utility. I called my utility provider here in San Antonio, CPS. They came and for free, 2 Wi-Fi enabled thermostats, brought me a couple of dozen LED light bulbs. If y'all didn't realize, call your utility. They'll come out and do a building thermal envelope evaluation, give you some free LEDs. A lot of times they have tax rebates on a new heat pump or high efficiency air conditioning system, since we're talking mechanical today. And that cartoon kind of reminded me of it. Today we will be covering significant changes as far as mechanically related, or at least somewhat mechanically related, from the 2015 to the 2018 International Conservation Codes, ICC. Let's get started. So I mentioned my name is Jason Vandever. I work for SPEER. I am Energy Code Program Manager for SPEER. Because we had TACA joining us today, typically we have a lot of building inspectors on our webinar. But today, I'm also happy to invite all of our air conditioning contractors that are joining us today. I will do a little more introduction than normal. So you inspectors that catch all these webinars, I apologize. It's the same bad jokes, but at least they're new for the AC contractor. SPEER, we cover Texas and Oklahoma. The great thing about SPEER is any way I can help you out, the price is right, it's free. I have a mechanical company doing some work in Corpus Christi, and they're required. Anyway, the building official and the mechanical contractor and I were going around in an email chain as far as fleshing out code requirements, and I'm happy to speak on your behalf to code officials. Ultimately, they are the what? The AHJ, right? They're the authority having jurisdiction. So ultimately, whatever they say goes, whether it's in the code book or not. Sometimes that's just the way it goes. And if you're smart, you will probably just kind of play it the way they tell you to. I'm assuming everybody can hear me. And for the cities on the call, if there's any building officials, for your training and education budget, for a mere $250 a year, you can join the handful of cities that are already members of SPEER, Plano, Houston. There's a handful. Be happy to have you join SPEER as well and provide on-site ICC CEUs, develop customized training for your city. Any way I can help you out, I will. But feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help you any way I can. With that, I'd like to thank TACA for joining us today. Deborah, you are unmuted. If you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your fantastic organization. If y'all didn't know, we stole their last executive director, Todd McAllister. We stole from TACA, so we are somewhat related to this organization at the hip. Their ex-executive director is now our current. But I've met Deborah in El Paso, and we delivered a presentation together. Super nice lady. Deborah, can you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about TACA?
Absolutely. Good afternoon. My name is Deborah Jakubowski, and I am the newer executive director of the Texas Air Conditioning Contractors Association. And for one, I appreciate that Todd went to SPEER because, that gave me an opportunity to work with this great organization. We know that a lot of folks have questions about the newly adopted codes, and we're very pleased to host this Learn at Lunch and have Jason, who I've been told is the Texas Code Guru, share the changes with you today. Thanks, Jason and SPEER, for putting this session together and letting me have a moment.
Happy to have you. And I'm only a code guru in my dreams, and if you ask my mom, the energy code is my specialty, probably followed by the plumbing code. Mechanical code might be third, the IRC, certainly. So I do apologize. Typically when I give a presentation, I don't ever read anything. Man, I know my material backwards and forwards, and I'm just off the cuff, and it flows real well. I do have a few notes for some of these slides today, and I will read little pieces of slides today, but I typically like to keep it a little more free-flowing. Just some housekeeping to get started. For the inspectors on the webinar or any contractors that need ICC CEUs, you will receive a follow-up course evaluation after the presentation today, and fill out the course evaluation and you can get ICCEUs from Liz. We do have a couple of upcoming webinars tomorrow from mechanical contractors. This might be interesting. Typically, a lot of times these are solo. It's the fireplace guy. He's either the insulator as well, or it's a little more specialty. 25, 30 years ago, that was the mechanical contractor. But meeting codes and standards for direct vent fireplaces tomorrow. And then, oh my goodness, if you're interested in concrete at all, I have found the concrete guru. He gave one for us last week and it was so good. I've asked him back for an encore, and next Wednesday we will learn about eliminating moisture in concrete. A couple of other things real quick I will show you, just so you know. So everyone will get a copy. So basically what I did, and this is residential, I went through all of the mechanical related chapters in the IRC, and this came out of the 2015, but none of these bullet points had any significant changes. And basically I just went through every chapter that was related to anything mechanical, and just little bullet points. I just real little simple stuff, condensate drains, 1% slopes, supported. I mean, y'all know 99% of this stuff. But it's a new hire or something like that. This would be great to, hey, just throw it in the truck and let him read it. There's some hyperlinks available. If you're doing duct board, the old SMACNA guide's always handy. And my email address is on that Word document, so feel free to shoot me an email about any and all things you question. And I'm happy to answer a fuel gas question or an IBC question. I'm a little bit of a code nerd. SPEER, one nice thing about being an energy code program manager for SPEER is it gives me that flexibility to really spend some time in the building science. You know, I joke that I'm a recovering building official, 5 years clean, no red tags issued. So I do have that code background. Yeah, now I'm a tree hugging hippie trying to save the planet, but I grew up framing houses. So I've also worn the tool belt. So I kind of try to blend those three worlds together and make it work in a kind of common sense way. There's some things I argue you can't build a doghouse to code. You darn sure can't build a house to code, because code is really, really picky. And the second you've got a staple overdriven by a 1/16 of an inch, or you're 6 foot and an 1/8 inch separation when you only need 6, and there's, you know, and not only that, manufacturers' installation instructions, good luck with those. You know, I mean, they're super detailed, so figuring out all those. And then the second document that you'll get is Myths About Duct Design. It basically just kind of highlights in a lot of jurisdictions, I've done a lot of field training, and I've seen time and time again, grossly undersized returns. Now, the good thing is typically that grossly undersized return is combined with a 2-ton oversized unit and then leaky supplies. So that calamity of errors works together for something that keeps people comfortable. However, it's just horribly inefficient and grossly undersized returns. Oh, that's why I'm sitting at 100. Oh no, Cassidy. Yep. So I apologize. My coworker, long story short, we'll have to do well, the good thing is this will go up on our YouTube channel. My coworker forgot to switch over the account, and so this Zoom account, we have 100 people on, and it caps it at 100. We have 500 that should be available. I'm really upset that that happened, but it did. So there's no point in crying over spilled milk. Hopefully as many HVAC contractors got on that can. So the last of the, so a little bit more of the housekeeping. For those of you that don't know, so let's just look at a code in general. So when a code change comes out, and this is a chapter y'all would be interested in, and feel free to type in questions in the Q&A or in the chat. I'll try to kind of catch those as we go. Oh no, don't drop off, Chuck. No worries. Y'all hang on there. We'll get, like I said, we can do it again, and a video will be available on our YouTube channel, etc. So we can deliver it again. You can view it on our YouTube channel, but let's look at how these code changes work. So the way a code change works, no, as many people as want can call in. So the way the code change works is if there is a change in the code, see these black vertical lines, that will tell you that this section has been changed. And it's as particular as, so you can tell the first sentence has been changed and then the third and fourth have. So, and then if you see an arrow, that'll tell you that there's been a section of code that's been deleted. And that just goes from one code cycle to the next. So this is the 2015 code here. So that would tell you this has changed from the 12 to the 15, and there was something deleted here. Another real important thing to know about in the code, see all these italicized words? Well, if the word is italicized, that means that word is in chapter 2. And chapter 2 is the definition chapter. And for all of the videos, I mean, for all of the words for all of the codes, chapter 2 is always the definition chapter. And that's super important because if it is italicized, it is a very particular, very code specific definition. Is that, everybody's seeing my code book, are they not? If somebody can type in that you're seeing my code book, that would, I'm gonna share it again just in case. Somebody noted that they weren't seeing the code book. Let's see, Gil. Sorry, this is a bit of a mess. Okay, everybody else can see it. It was just one person. So we covered that already. Again, additions, deletions, italicized are in the definition chapter. And on the new I-Codes interface, and this hyperlink is in that Word document that you will get, and all attendees also get a PDF of the presentation. So any of the hyperlinks in the presentation, there's no, I mean, don't take notes or anything like that. All of that stuff, you'll get a PDF of the presentation and that Word document with my email and all the hyperlinks available. This is one of the hyperlinks. You can actually view even the brand new 2021 codes that just came out. You can view those for free. Now, when you're using the free viewer, just be aware that you can't use the search function, which is super handy. Maybe you're looking for bonding requirements or whatever it may be. You just type in the word bonding and boom, every single place it occurs in the code, you can just hop right to it. But that's only on the premium. But there is a free 14-day trial on the premium edition. And just, this is brand new. I want to show you a new feature in the premium edition. This is totally new to the code. Let's look at one of the mechanical chapters here. So heating and cooling equipment and appliances. So there is actually, let's find so the blue stuff would be new code. Let's look, there's additional premium material. So for those of you that love the code hearings, any new material in the code, there's actually hyperlinks to it, and it'll show you the original code change proposal. So who proposed it, where are they from, their contact information, what the proposed change was, what the standard was, a cost impact if there is any. So it really goes above and beyond. And then not only that, there are, let's see, so you can highlight and create notes in the electronic document, bookmark pages, share it with colleagues. So it's a whole lot more interactive. ICC has completely changed all that. Now, of course, at the low price of $700 a year for the entire code section. It is a little bit pricey, but it is totally new, and it's a very, I'm not a big fan of the blue instead of the lines, because it can get a little confusing to me as far as the new code changes. But I've had my premium trial for 3 days, so I've been on it for 3 days. So I'll learn a whole lot more about that as it goes. And then while we're off there, I just want to show you that SPEER does have a YouTube channel. If you just Google SPEER with 2 E's, SPEER Communications. And for the mechanical contractors, we have a plethora of mechanically related videos. You see here manual JS and D 101s. This is one I do, residential HVAC overview, flex duct basics, Energy Star and HVAC grading. My favorite as far as quality goes, Alex Meany, the head trainer with RightSoft, did this HVAC design myth busting for us. It's fantastic. And he has 3 more on there that are really, really good. So if you're really wanting to get into the weeds of all things mechanical, I would highly recommend Alex's webinars, and we have a couple of dozen other webinars as well on our YouTube channel. So I would ask you to please subscribe to that. And then we'll show this video from TDLR here at the end, but let's get back to the presentation. So today in the presentation, basically what I did is I looked for significant changes, and I'm just going to go in order through the IMC, then the fuel gas code, then the IRC, and then what I know the best, the IECC. And to me, the 2 most significant mechanical changes actually are in the IECC. So I just got lucky that what I know best, and that in my opinion, those are the most significant changes, especially to me as a mechanical contractor doing commercial jobs. No longer needing to put in economizers is huge. And that's a big change from the 15 to the 18. So a little sneak preview of what we're going to be talking about there. And then Bill Weatherly, with TDLR, is on the webinar today. I have a handful of slides that he gave me that I'm going to present, but he will also be available for any questions and answers about licensing, regulation, anything TDLR related. Bill will be happy to help you out. So let's go ahead and get started. And of course, we'll save time for questions and answers. We'll finish up at right about an hour today. For all of the inspectors, y'all have seen this slide a half a dozen times. For the mechanical contractors looking at this for the first time today, this is basically what this says in English is, man, don't underestimate the job you guys do. You know, a quality HVAC installation versus throwing one in, you know, an extra $30, $40 a month might not be that big a deal for me or you, or certainly not the builders, right? But a single mom or little old couple on a fixed income, it's very important, muy importante. It's very important that, and so don't underestimate the job you guys do. I appreciate it. And you know, 20, 30 bucks a month, if you really pay attention to detail, put in the right system and do it right, it can make a big difference. So thank you. This is the 2015 code book. Got a little splash of purple. 2018's full purple. You can see the difference. The first difference is in, again, chapter 2 was the first difference that I noticed. They changed the definition of commercial cooking appliances, where they kind of tried to call out all of the definitions in the 15. They simplified it in the 18. And kind of like that moisture, that circular argument in the moisture test in concrete in last week's webinar. The definition in the 2015 was circular, and that chapter 5 used the term and dictated where a hood was required for such appliances. Yet the definition said that a commercial cooking appliance is something that requires a hood. So the 2015 definition was flawed, because if chapter 5 didn't require a hood, then the definition would say that it's no longer a commercial cooking appliance, even though it obviously could be. So anyway, the laundry list of appliances in the original in the 15 definition, it was incomplete. I mean, you can't list them all, and it was redundant with overlapping light, medium, heavy duty appliances. So this is meant to clear it up. And there's no accepted definition for commercial. I know when I was doing inspections, our fire inspector with the city of Temple, or city of Granbury, where I was last building official, you know, if it was a little bitty break room in a sleepy little bookstore that had a little cooktop in it, he would require them to put a commercial type 1 hood, because it's a commercial occupancy and you got a cooktop, you need a hood, a commercial hood. And so this will eliminate that over. Anyway, the previous definition said that any building or portion thereof used for food preparation made it a food service establishment, which obviously that's extremely broad. I mean, that could include, like I said, a break room, a little whatever. I mean, food service establishments, you typically thinking about restaurants, cafeterias, right? I mean, but they can be also charity kitchen. So the new definition more aligns with commercial, which is commerce, which means where food is prepared for sale. So that changes and should hopefully eliminate some of those commercial hoods in where they don't need to be. Ventilation, this is an IMC, but it's also in the IRC. So this would apply for 1 and 2 family dwellings as well as your apartments. Where provided within a dwelling unit. So, and ventilation, in my opinion, is broken in the code. I typically go on a little rant about ventilation in all of my live presentations because it is just flat out broken in the code. To me, the ventilation rates in the code are worst case scenario and frankly, just over ventilate. However, luckily, I mean, most of the time you're not pulling that CFM. But long story short, the code allows exhaust only. So if you use one of your exhaust only fans, you upgrade it to a more efficient fan because that's what code requires. Was it 2.8 CFM per watt? So basically you buy an exhaust fan that says 62.2 or Energy Star compliant. You meet the CFM per watt requirement. It has to be controlled, which a light switch is a control. And then it has to meet the CFM requirements. And then typically it's under 100 for most size houses. So that just fan you bought off the shelf, and not your $40 builder grade fan, but that $80 fan that's a little more efficient. Well, in the 2018 code, the control that controls that exhaust fan or whatever system fan you're using for your whole house mechanical ventilation, which is required, because remember when you get to below 5 air changes an hour, which all of Texas is, then you have to have whole house mechanical ventilation, fresh air, whatever you want to call it. It's mechanical ventilation is what it's called in the code. But that switch does have to be labeled from now on. Keep the homeowners from turning it off. I mean, I can't tell you how many builders do that and they never have a conversation with the homeowner, or the homeowner's living in a really tight house that doesn't, they never open a window. And so it's important to label that. The ventilating equipment. This is a new change, and in some jurisdictions, I know Corpus Christi, for example, and I've been having some conversations with their building official of late. He is requiring that the ventilation fan actually be tested and be verified that it meets the CFM that is required in code. I think that's a great idea. Code doesn't require that, but he's the authority having jurisdiction, and there's certainly a section in the code that would allow him to do that, no doubt about it. In the 2018 goes on to say, and this is in ICC's commentary, basically says that, hey, this is simply going to tell you that the fans need to be tested, listed, and labeled to verify the CFM they can pull in a laboratory setting. And it specifically says, does not require any field testing of installed fans. The fans just have to meet the minimum airflow with this standard here. The ANSI 210, I'm not going to read the standards. But when you look at an exhaust fan, just be aware that those CFMs that the manufacturer state, those are based on a 4-inch round solid metal duct with limited turns and pretty close directly to the outside. What do we get a lot of times in the field? We get a 4-inch flex duct, or with some of even the less expensive, the first-time home builder buyers, you get a 3-inch flex. And so you're not going to get near the CFM you need. And the code doesn't specifically call that out, but just FYI, if you do get a code official, as these houses get tighter and tighter and ventilation becomes more and more important, we will probably be moving. You will probably see a lot of 4-inch solid metal duct and getting away from the flex duct. It's not required in code yet, but if you do have to meet those CFM requirements in the code, that's probably one of the only ways you're going to be able to get there. There's a change with parking garages. Obviously, residential guys aren't going to need to worry about this. And it's really not a technical change. It just goes to clarify that, hey, the exhaust for a parking garage needs to be running at least a little bit, no matter what. And it goes on to basically tell you, hey, it either needs to be full on or you need CO, carbon monoxide and nitrous oxide detectors. So one of the others, you know, if it's not detecting, that's fine. It can be minimum on, but as soon as it starts detecting, it needs to ramp up. And so that's just a clarification really in enclosed parking garages. On exhaust systems for dryers, this was fairly significant, I thought, because, and for the inspectors on the webinar, do yourself a favor and just start requiring a 2x6 wall at the washer dryer. I mean, because what does a washer have? A washer has to have a 2-inch drain pipe, right? Well, you cannot get a non-S trap 2-inch drain pipe in a 2x4 wall and meet code. You can't. You're going to overbore a stud. So if you can't do it, I required it in Granbury and nobody batted an eye, because actually the plumbers love me. I mean, your builders might gripe a little bit, but your plumbers will love you. If the mechanical guys are running the dryer duct, just be aware that you are no longer allowed to use a 4-inch dryer duct in a 3.5-inch wall, because the 2018 code basically says shall allow the installation of the duct without deformation. So you are no longer able to oval out that 4-inch round duct. And also they've added that the termination must be undiminished in size with a clear opening of at least 12.5 inches clear. That's equivalent to a 4-inch diameter. And then the closed dryer exhaust ducts, if they're in the wall cavity, or if they're sealed at all of those seams have to be sealed now. So you'll be masticing those seams in the 2018. I thought that was a cute cartoon. We've all lost socks, right? Okay, let's go to the next one. This one was change the clearance for type 1 exhaust terminations. You can now be 3 feet from above an air intake louver, but to the side, you have to be 10 feet from a window. You can reduce that to a 5-foot clearance if this is directed. So if this had if this fan was listed and labeled to blow that this way, then this could be 5 feet. So that's a reduction for exhaust terminations. This is new. Now our fire inspector, I've never done hood inspections when I was a building official. The fire inspector always did it. I mean, I've been there when he's done it before. But the 2018 has added pollution control units. This is a fairly new technology to my understanding, the little bit of reading I did about them. Basically in the hood or in the duct, there is a pollution control unit now, which basically extracts smoke, grease particles, odors. A lot of these heavier requirements will come out of California's Title 24 or sometimes Europe that are a little more restrictive. And some of those heavier restrictions end up making it into the ICC codes. So there's that's been added. This is good. So type 1 exhaust systems, they used to 18 inches. You can't get them within 18 inches of anything combustible whatsoever. Well, now there's a new UL 710 listing that you can actually have these right up next to combustible materials, depending on the hood. But if it's listed with UL, it can be UL 710. You can install it per the manufacturer's installation instructions. This one here supposedly has a 3-inch air gap built in and can be installed directly on combustible surfaces. Phenolic ducts. I had never heard of phenolic ducts. For the small price of $159, you can, so the IMC tells you you have to construct non-metallic phenolic ducts with the SMACNA phenolic duct construction standards. Well, I'm sure every code official in the world out there can just plop down $160 to figure out what those are. And then all the mechanical contractors are going to buy a copy of this. No, of course not. Basically, a phenolic duct, it's a long story short, closed cell foam sandwiched by foil. I mean, that's not 100% correct, but pretty much. It's a way lighter. It's 75% lighter than sheet metal and has a better R value. So, you know, it reduced load on a commercial roof. I mean, I can see a lot of applications for these phenolic ducts. And then, of course, being the tree hugging hippie working for an energy efficiency nonprofit, I'm always trying to save energy. So, and this was interesting. I had a mechanical contractor. They put in a Starbucks in Granbury, and they had exposed these snap lock ducts that were exposed in the ceiling. You know, that we had a R25 continuous insulation, typical TPO roof, right, with exposed metal duct. And he asked me, hey, do I got to seal all these seams? I'm like, no, it's in the building thermal envelope. You know, your longest run's 40 feet. If a little bit leaks, I don't think we're going to mess with your required CFM or anything like that. He's like, oh man, the building official in the last jurisdiction I was in, I mean, you know, these exposed ducts, you don't want to go masticing those seams. That looks terrible. Well, the 2018 goes and clarifies, it says, hey, if that's inside the building thermal envelope, these joints do not need any additional sealing. Any kind of snap locking doesn't need additional sealing. Specific appliances, this is more electrician, but I guess it's also, it was in the mechanical code, so in the ventilation chapter, of course. Basically, there is a new change for high volume, large diameter fans and what they have to be listed with. So I remember the first time I saw one of these huge fans on a patio in Granbury, the electrician's like, yeah, that's a big ass fan, huh? I said, what are you talking about? It's actually the name of the company that makes those fans. What's next? Specific appliance. If you have any ammonia refrigeration, there is a new specific required emergency ventilation rate for ammonia, 30 air changes an hour, or in accordance with this standard here. So if you're doing any ammonia refrigeration, keep that in mind. Of course, I had to put a beer refrigerator on there. There's also a new change that basically it was just cleared up some ambiguous text as far as, you know, when you're doing plan review, the path of egress can be 60% of the plans, depending on who's drawing it from what room and how their interpretation of that is. Well, the 2018 will go on to tell you, hey, no, it's not any path of egress. It's these 6 things. It's not the entire possible conceivable path of egress. So that clears up confusion there. This again, mechanical chapter. I don't know who would be installing these, but it's for solar thermal storage. Now this isn't PV. Photovoltaic solar is what we think of on the roofs. This is like solar thermal, which uses sunlight to heat a fluid. And you can read the change significance. We're probably not doing a whole lot of that, so I'm not going to go through and read any of that. I put this picture in any chance I can get. Obviously, this is probably not relative to too many of the mechanical contractors on there. However, in the fuel gas code, you can now put your dryer in your bathroom. It does have to meet these requirements. Previously, that appliance was not allowed in a bathroom. Now it can be. I don't know if you'd want it in that bathroom. I love that return air there. That just makes me happy looking at that. I just installed some of this myself in my cantina bar I built in my backyard. I started with iron pipe, and I got tired of the leak that I kept having, and you tighten one, then you loosen the other, and wearing my union. And long story short, this flash shield CSST is a breeze to work with. And I love that this jacket eliminates the need for bonding. And the 2018, where it's ambiguous in the 15, now the manufacturer has told you don't have to. However, the way the 15 read, it it wasn't clear. And in the 18, it specifically will tell you if you have that, the shielded type CSST, once one of those appliances that are hooked up to that is plugged into your to the outlet, well, that would consider that system is grounded because it hits the grounding conductor there at the appliance. You can now use Schedule 10 steel pipe. Typically in the 15 and before, Schedule 40 was basically what you were looking at. Now you can use Schedule 10. You're not using threaded fittings with Schedule 10 or anything lighter than Schedule 40. You're using press connect, flanges, brazing, or welding. And you see the standards it has to meet there. The IRC cooktops, man, I reread this thing 9 times. Basically, there are no substantive changes. They changed the word range hoods to domestic cooking exhaust equipment. But long story short, and they added a UL listing for microwave ovens with internal exhaust. However, that UL listing, it allows circulation or exhaust to the outdoors. So as I'm reading this, and I left all, and I hate leaving a bunch of words in here. And I tell you what, in the code, open top broiler unit, I sure did hope that was going to be italicized and in the definition, because you can't find it. You can't find what the definition of an open top broiler unit is. To me, a broiler is a heating element. And so any kind of cooktop that's not enclosed is an open top broiler unit. And so this tells you you got to have a hood, but then there's that same exception. And then you can go to the manufacturer's installation instructions, and if they allow it in that microwave on the recirc and it's listed with that UL listing, it is still allowed. Now, I don't like it. If I ever fall off the wagon and become a building official again, I think I will eliminate that exception, and all of my cooktops in my jurisdiction are going to exhaust to the outdoors. Keep in mind when you are doing, and I see this done so wrong in the field all the time, and I understand why, and I personally didn't mind a little piece of flex to connect the vent fan to the duct, you know, maybe 6-10 inches, something like that, just in case you were off just a little bit. Technically, code didn't allow that, but you don't, I see it in the field all the time where you've got people run the whole thing of flex. Well, needless to say, those grease vapors are going to clog those ridges. We all know it, and this isn't a change, but just keep in mind it should be smooth metal, right? Now, how you put that together where the screws don't go through less than 1/8 of an inch, kind of same with a dryer duct, seems impossible to me. And in my current cooktop in my house here in San Antonio, it is the downdraft, and it's got the PVC duct coming out of the slab about, I don't know, 2 feet above grade, 3 feet above grade. I'm just curious where here it says, shall be constructed of galvanized steel, stainless steel, or copper, or you can use PVC, but the PVC duct extends not more than 1 inch above grade outside a building. That sounds like a horrible idea to me. I see things in the code all the time that you can tell, you think they would have gotten all the bugs out of this thing by now, but they just haven't. I think that is a mistake. And I'm going to show you a big mistake related to economizers here in a little bit. And I'm not reading any of that, but I left all of, this is ICC's explanation of the change significance for that oven top broiler exhaust. I left that in there because I am sending out a PDF just because I want you to be able to read it at your leisure if you're interested. Oh my gosh, everybody thinks they're a commercial chef these days, right? I mean, we are installing exhausts above ranges over 400 CFM left and right. I had a phone call the other day. I had a 1200 CFM range hood, no makeup air at all. And of course, no sealed combustion appliance. I mean, you've got backdraft issues. And this has changed. So makeup air provisions for high velocity kitchen exhaust, it actually first appeared in the 2009 edition of the IRC. And that was because, like I said, kitchen exhaust hoods with high velocity fans, the prevalence of those were increasing. And then with the 2009, we were seeing tighter building thermal envelopes for increased energy efficiency. Well, that high rate of exhaust can create negative pressure, right? And cause backdrafting of venting systems for fuel-fired appliances. We're creating life safety issues. It's not really the energy efficient problem. It's the, hey, I guarantee you that range hood would tell you you need makeup air if it's over 400 CFM. So in the 2009 and 2012 IRC, the makeup air system required a motorized or mechanical damper that was interlocked with the range hood. Like this was the 09 and the 012 requirement. When the hood was in operation, the damper would open and to emit makeup air. Well, the 2015 code introduced an option for installing a gravity damper. This in an adjacent room, or basically any room that directly communicated with the kitchen without any permanent closure. So it couldn't be a room that could be closed off, but if there was a permanent opening between the kitchen and another room, you could have a gravity damper there. That was in the 15. And in the 18, makeup air for high velocity kitchen exhaust, it's only required when the dwelling unit has one or more. So basically they recognize that it says it's only required when one or more fuel fired appliance with a gravity venting system. So if you've got mechanical venting for your fuel fired appliances, there's some relaxations for it. Now, ASHRAE 62.2, of course, is a standard for ventilation and acceptable indoor air quality in residential buildings. And it does not require makeup air when combustion appliances are mechanically vented or direct vented. And you know, the current consensus would kind of confirm that makeup air requirements should not apply to mechanically vented or direct vent combustion appliances because, you know, the susceptibility of backdrafting is not really there. Anyway, there's also text addressing makeup air dampers. It's got a new section including a requirement for gravity or barometric dampers. The kind of intent is to set the operations of the damper will open before the appliance starts, and we don't have any backdrafting. And when makeup air is required, the gravity or barometric damper shall engage at the pressure differential above which naturally drafted combustion appliances can be expected to backdraft, which is 3 pascals. Anyway, if you want to get into the weeds of that, let me know and I can send you some more information on it. Demand controlled pumps. So now we're moving on to the IECC changes. This is a whole new section. Basically, there's a whole, if you're replacing your pool pump, spend a couple $100 extra for the variable speed pool pump. It will pay for itself in one summer. Basically, the variable speed drive pump technology has come light years. It's kind of like LED bulbs from 2005 to today. It's a tenth of the price. They're 3 times as efficient. And so the IECC has recognized that, hey, in these climate zones, variable speed drives are required in motors. Typically, your mechanical engineer will spec those, but just be aware that is a new change in the IECC. Now, this is the biggest one to me. In Houston, Texas, economizers don't make any sense, in my opinion. On the 2015 code, so climate zone A is humid. Climate zone A is Houston. Climate zone B is Lubbock. Climate zone B is dry. Climate zone A is moist. So what the code said in 15 is in a dry climate, you don't have to put in economizers if you put in 10% more efficient. But in a humid climate, you can't put in more efficient equipment. You have to bring in outdoor air. So in other words, the code was broken. It was exactly backwards. This should have said 2A, 3A, and 4A. Well, they recognized that in the 18 code. And even now, when I was a building official, if you were a mechanical contractor in my jurisdiction and I'm on the 15 code and you wanted to do something to the 18 code, I didn't have a problem with that. And I would think most building officials won't. So even if the jurisdiction you're working in is on the 15 energy code, have a conversation with the building official and say, hey, in climate zone 3, it's 10%, or 2, it's 10%, and in climate zone 3, it's 15%. Hey, Mr. Building Official, if I put in 10% more efficient equipment than is required, can you give me an exception on the economizer? And there's also, they added 6 other exceptions for economizers in the 18 as well, and those are listed. But that was broken in the 15, and to me, in Houston, Texas, I don't want to be bringing in outdoor air, or in Beaumont, I don't want to be bringing in outdoor air more than 15 minutes a year. And so this addresses that, put in a little more efficient equipment. To me, that does a whole lot better job in meeting the intent of the code, and it's fixed. I'm not going to go into the details on these, but these are just a few other ones that I noticed. There's new requirements for variable air volume and multiple zone systems. As those are becoming more prevalent, we'll see more and more requirements for those. ERVs, we don't put those in a whole lot in Texas. New requirements for those. A few new requirements for HVAC systems and guest rooms, hotel, motels, sleeping rooms. Walk-in and freezer and cooler efficiencies have been bumped up. New requirements for high-pressure duct system and grid-enabled equipment. Just keeping up with the technology there. On residential, this will be big, and you'll start to see this more and more, especially as jurisdictions in climate zone 3, so north of Waco, climate zone 3 move to the 2021 energy code. To save you exactly what all's wrong with it, basically it's going to require foundation insulation. The math is wrong on it. The trade-offs are going to be a pain. And so builders, they're going to be struggling to provide code compliant paperwork at permit. And there's a buried ducts provision in the 2018 IECC that will allow you to bury your ducts in the attic. And you can you can do one and basically what it helps you, I mean, yes, it is more energy efficient. I mean, you just common sense would tell you that your ducts being more insulated, it's going to be more efficient. And in Owens Corning, we do have a full hour webinar on buried ducts, the buried ducts provision in the code on our YouTube channel. So if you are more interested, hop on there and check that out. I'll tell you just kind of the gist of it real quick in just a couple of minutes. Basically, the way it works is you can do it a couple of different ways. You put in our climate zone, you're supposed to have an R13 flex duct, which only one company makes, and it's expensive. Now you can sleeve you can take the jacket off a bigger diameter, use a R6 and an R8 and sleeve one in the other and get to an R14 that way. But R13 jackets will be on the market in a cheaper fashion soon. And basically you can put the duct on the drywall or on top of the joist and have, R19 below it, and then you mount R19 above it. I'm not going to get into all the intricacies of it, but long story short, if your air handler is up here in the attic for your energy code compliance paperwork on the performance calculations, you can count that duct as being R25. Or if you get the air handler in conditioned space, you put the air handler down here in a closet and your ducts leak at 1.5% or less, well, then on your energy code compliance paperwork, you can count that whole system as being in conditioned space. And it might come into climate zone 2 as well with the 2021, especially moving to R49 attic insulation. A lot of builders won't want to do that. So there's going to be reasons you're going to be getting questions about burying ducts. And if you do it right, they're not going to sweat. Owens Corning has 3 test houses down in the Houston area right now. They're getting great results for it. They're not having condensation problems. So it can be done correctly. But you got to dot all your I's and cross all your T's, and you want to make sure you're code compliant. And we've got a full hour if you're interested in more. Okay, now to Bill's part, and he will be on the line to answer any questions. He sent me these next few slides. This is Bill. Super nice guy, and he's not, he's been in the HVAC industry as well, got a great background in it. And so he knows that, sometimes the people with complaints to TDLR have maybe some unfounded complaints. He's a reasonable guy. However, if you did a crummy job, you didn't do your load calculations, you didn't do it right, you're probably going to have some conversations with him. But nice guy. I'll give you his contact information here in just a second. And any questions for TDLR or licensing, he is on the line and can answer those for you. So some of the reason y'all are on here, as of the 1st of this month, right? Texas says, TDLR says, we are on the 2018 IRC, IMC, UMC, and IFGC. Now, when I was building official for Granbury, for example, we were on the 2008 National Electric Code. Well, TDLR had adopted the 2011 National Electric Code. Well, from the 8 to the 11, there were a whole bunch more arc fault requirements. You're talking about adding $400 to $600 cost to the panel to a house just for breakers. Well, So the electricians didn't want to do it. And I didn't red tag them for not putting them in, but when they asked me, do I have to install them? I would say, well, I'm inspecting to the 2008 because Texas is a home rule state. We had adopted the 2008, but I warned them, said, well, but I don't hold your master electrician's license. Who does? TDLR. Just like you HVACR contractors, who hold your license? TDLR. What does TDLR say? TDLR says the 2018, right? So if you're in a jurisdiction, we actually have one jurisdiction in Texas that is still on the 1973 Southern Building Code. Guess what? You can't build to the 1973 Southern Building Code and stay out of a courtroom. So to me, if I'm going to wire, I'm going to duct, I'm going to install fuel gas the way my license holder tells me to, which is the 2018. Now, this goes on to tell you about authority having jurisdiction, home rule state. Now, always talk to your building official. Ultimately, they are the authority having jurisdiction. But if the building official wants it one way that is in contradiction to the way the 2018 wants it, have that conversation with him. That would certainly be a conversation I would have. What is this one? I don't remember. Oh yeah, no significant. So don't worry about moving. You saw the changes. There are no high cost changes from the 15 to the 18 codes. You mechanical contractors, don't worry about adverse economic impacts on moving to the 18. Nothing to sweat there. And this is one of Bill's examples of a minor code change. Basically, if you're using CSST, the shutoff valve, you need to come out with some hard pipe on each side of that and then secure that shutoff valve. That shutoff valve doesn't need to be loose up in the attic or loose on the outside of the building or whatever it may be. And we already talked about this enclosed parking garage. Again, it was just to clarify what intermittent meant. Just so you know, SECO, our State Energy Conservation Office, they're the ones that deal with the International Energy Conservation Code. I work closely with them. I actually do a lot of HVAC training for them as well. Them and HARC help to fund and provide that training. Well, the 2021 International Energy Code just got published. And so Texas A&M Energy Systems Lab will have 6 months to review that code. And then at that time, SECO can look to recommend the 2021 Energy Code for the state. There are enough changes in it, and I think there's going to be enough pushback and concern from builders. Now, this is just my opinion. It means absolutely nothing. Just ask my wife. I don't think Texas will move to the 2021 this year. I think mid next year will be at the absolute earliest, but we'll see. For any energy code related stuff, love Shirley to death. She's with Tech College, she's at College Station, Texas A&M Energy Systems Lab. She's big time now though, sitting on ICC board of directors. So I might be a little easier to get to for energy code related stuff. There's my email. But if you don't like what I tell you, feel free to ask Shirley. She's super knowledgeable. She's been in it. She's forgotten more about building codes than probably I know. This is Bill's contact information for TDLR, and you'll get a copy of this PDF, so no need to write any of this down. Oh, and just real quick on me griping about undersized returns earlier. In my opinion, if you're a mechanical contractor, you need to put a return in every bedroom. Again, if I ever fall off the wagon and become a building official again, there will be a return in every bedroom in my jurisdiction. At the very least, a return in the master bedroom. For the mechanical contractors, I just got back did some field training in Bryan not too long ago. One main return in the hallway. Well, that's a decent sized master, decent sized closet, decent sized master bathroom. That master was probably calling for at least 300 CFM. This chart is directly out of Manual D. Now, you might not have to have a return in every bedroom, but what you have to do by code is do your load calculation per Manual J, select your equipment per Manual S, and design and install your ducts per Manual D. Those are code requirements. They have been for 30 years. Well, guess what? If you're wanting to be cheap and not put a return in all the bedrooms, well, that master bedroom in that house I saw in Bryan might have been calling for 300 CFM for the master. If that's a 3.0 door in the master, you're looking at a 4-inch undercut. oh, maybe you need a little more CFM. How about a 5.3 inch undercut? So the gist is undercuts suck, but not enough. Undercuts don't work. I would encourage you all to put a return in every bedroom. If you're code officials and you start asking for that and they gripe, where's that in the code? Just say, oh, it's not in the code, but ACA manual JS and DR, why don't you give me all three of those and let me make sure that you've installed your ducts per your manual D design. Oh, yeah, we'll just put a return in the bedrooms. That's a great way to get returns in the bedrooms right there. I'm curious. Let me launch my poll here. I got a poll. There's a new definition, and this was just as I was going through the codes, I noticed this new definition. So this is a new appliance definition in the codes, more related to a different field, but could be related to y'all. It was, I'm not going to give you any clues. Let me launch this poll. So what is this appliance here? Is it a new type of pressure cooking appliance, hospital sterilization equipment, a COVID-19 virus containment device, a gas-fired toilet, a hydronic pasta maker? Give you just a couple of minutes. I love it. I love it. Well, we're looking at about a third of you said hospital sterilization equipment. 4% COVID-19 containment device. This is, I told my wife last night, she goes, what? It's a gas-fired toilet, a propane-fired toilet. It incinerates it. It's got a little drawer. You pull it out, and it's nothing but ash. So there's a new definition in the fuel gas code for gas-fired toilet. I remember coming across that 20 years ago when I was inspector for the city of Temple, gas-fired toilet in the code. So it's been around a while, but there's actually a new definition in the code now. So these are our questions. I did want to show you one more thing while I've got you on here, and that's TDLR's video, and we will finish right on time.
Changing seasons often bring new issues with air conditioning and heating. If you experience a sudden increase in your utility bill, lights flickering or strange sounds when your air conditioning or heating turns on, airflow without temperature change, or unpleasant odors, your air conditioning or heating may need maintenance or repair by a licensed air conditioning and refrigeration contractor. The ACR contractor's license covers the business, individual owner, or registered technicians that provide or offer to provide air conditioning and refrigeration services. The Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation ensures licensed ACR contractors have completed a criminal background check, passed a thorough examination, are experienced and trained, and carry the required insurance. A licensed contractor can diagnose your issue and provide a solution that meets all current health and safety code requirements. An unlicensed contractor may cause greater harm to your air conditioning and heating that could lead to increased utility bills, water damage, high humidity, mold, or even fire damage. To verify an ACR contractor's license in the state of Texas, go to the TDLR homepage and click Search Licenses. Select Air Conditioning Contractor from the drop-down menu and enter the contractor's information. Registered ACR technicians have undergone a criminal background check and can be verified on the same drop-down menu listed as AC Technicians. All registered technicians must work under the general supervision of the licensed ACR contractor. You can always ask to see the ACR contractor's license card and the registered ACR technician's TDLR ID card. Licensed contractors and registered technicians are proud of their work and certification. If a contractor or technician refuses to show their card, that is a red flag. They may not be licensed or certified. Make sure to get a written invoice for every service visit. This can help protect you from fraud, incompetence, or costly accidents. For further protection, you can request to see the contractor's insurance and have your name entered as the additional insured. For more information, visit TDLR's website and go to the Air Conditioning and Refrigeration Contractors page.
And with that, we got questions. I'm gonna put our contact information back on there. Hey, evidently in 5 minutes and 9 seconds, you can learn how to be a contractor. I thought that's funny. Let's see. Rick was just saying he could hurt. And like I said, I do have TDLR on. So if y'all have any questions for me or for TDLR, feel free to type them in the chat box or in the Q&A panel. It looks like, Bill, I must have covered it well between your slides and mine. I think we got it covered. Deborah, I don't have any questions from you folks. We'll give another minute or so on questions. I'll hop our our contact information back there. I don't see any. My goodness, we are finished right on time. 1 o'clock on the dot. I apologize. There evidently were a few folks that could not get on the webinar again, but again, it'll be up on our YouTube channel by tomorrow or so. So I'll send out, just please subscribe to our YouTube channel and check it out, and you will get a PDF of the presentation. And I got one more chat came in. Nope, just thanks. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Y'all have a great day.